Jeff, we need a song. I got fucked!
This is Bernie Burns.
Hey, I'm Jeff Ramsey.
Gussarola.
Joel Heyman.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Rooster Teeth Drunk. Welcome to the Rooster Teeth Drunk Tank.
That song gets better every time I hear it, and I've heard it so many times now, it's like the best song ever. This is the tech troubleshooting episode of the Drunk Tank.
This is our third time to start, Matt, or fourth time to start?
I've lost count. I'm gonna. You know what? Let's start again right now. Can we hear the song again? And then we'll just rack it up. So I feel like we get points every time we start.
Wow, that song was great. Hey, do we know who sent that song in? Griffin?
No, because I accidentally deleted it.
No, it was actually deleted. All right, well, hello, everyone. This is Bernie Burns.
This is Matt Hullum again.
Monty.
We have Monty Ohm on the podcast, and we have
Carrie.
We have our new young employee, not intern,
What's up?
Carrie. Carrie, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Now, Monty, you've been on the podcast before, right?
Yes, I have.
But, Carrie, you have never been on the podcast.
Never been on the podcast.
Well, welcome.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
A lot of abuse.
He had a lot of time to come up with that joke because we had a slight technical delay there.
He's been working on the material. He's been on the road to this room.
Jeff was building Carrie up for a while on what his performance was going to be on the podcast today. So, Carrie, you better break out some zingers.
Big
I think
shoes.
we're going to need them.
Yeah.
Big shoes. Gus and Jeff could not be here today because Gus is on vacation. Is that right?
Yes, and he took the instructions for how to record the podcast with him on vacation, apparently.
Apparently transcribed them to Sanskrit.
It's
You know, this is the part of the podcast when we make fun of the people who aren't here.
Aren't here in the podcast.
Talk about how we're the ones keeping the company together while everyone in the office is apparently doing nothing.
It's so true.
That's what Jeff and Gus always do when we're
The
not
ironic thing is that Monty and I are here, and we're usually not on the podcast. Usually while you guys are recording the podcast, Monty and I are talking about how we do all the work, and all you guys do is record the podcast.
Exactly. Sit in the back room and guffaw constantly.
That's right.
Guffaw.
That's right. I got a thesaurus. How you doing, Monty?
Yo, what's up?
Now, last time Monty was on the podcast, we had to edit a lot of his stuff out because Monty sat there and told us we're not funny and our jokes aren't good. So,
Yeah.
Monty's ready for. He has a cup of coffee in his hand and he's ready for this time.
I have a glass of coffee.
You do have
in
a
my
glass
hand.
of
I drank
coffee.
a whole glass of coffee.
How do you do that?
You pour coffee in a glass. And you
Well, that's
drink it.
scientifically accurate, but I was hoping for a more elaborate description.
For the record, it was full when we started.
Yeah, that's right.
What did you use? Chug coffee?
Monty interacts in unusual ways with seemingly normal objects around the office. He's the only one who has a special conspiracy theory about the paper towel dispenser. For instance, he pours coffee in a glass instead of a mug, and he has a system for getting extra paper towels that involves lasers and some kind of jumping, right?
No. I swear that paper towel dispenser did not want to give me two in a row.
Let me explain what we're talking about. We're at the new office, and at the old office, we didn't have a paper towel dispenser.
We had one old towel with about 8 billion germs.
That thing was kind of skanky. We had like a hand towel that we would use, and then we would have a roll of paper towel that would sit there sometimes, and we would use that whenever we washed our hands.
And it's the worst with the roll of paper towel because it always has that wet edge on the top from whoever had it before, like had their hands wet, and they grabbed the top of it to take off the next paper towel. So it's all like wet and just nasty at the top.
But
It was unpleasant.
Brandon was walking through the office with a sopping wet full roll of paper towels. It looked like he dunked it in a bucket of water. And he's like carrying it delicately, like trying to get it to the trash before it drips everywhere. And I go, "What is that? Where'd you get that?" He goes, "Nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." And it looked like he was like fixing a leak or something with it. So I was very concerned about the new office. It turns out he said, "No, it was just in the sink." And I turned on the sink and I didn't see the paper towels were in the sink. I was thinking, what? How do you miss that? What? If you have a full roll of paper towels in the sink, how can you not see that before you turn on
Brandon's
the sink?
easily distracted.
It's a pretty deep sink.
You
Let's
know,
be honest.
Brandon's usually doing like 30 things at once. That's why.
That's true.
And 15 of those 30 things are redoing previous
things that he was
because
distracted.
There was one
from doing.
small thing wrong.
How many
with it.
IKEA cabinets do we have that are half put together at this point?
We only have one. And it's a filing cabinet with one of the doors like stuck into the
But
drawer.
I saw him with a saw earlier, and I'm pretty sure you don't need a saw for IKEA cabinets. I'm not sure what's going on with that.
I think everyone in their life has to go through that experience where you get an IKEA cabinet or something and you put it together, and you put it together so wrong, but you're just going to live with it. And you know how it's wrong, or you get halfway done with it. Oh, I missed this step 5 pages back, so now I have to dismantle the whole thing.
Somehow Brandon puts together an IKEA cabinet like an Escher drawing, where there's like a drawer that doesn't go anywhere. Like you take it out, and somehow the drawer is connected to another drawer that has its own handle that just goes into space. It's like Inception with IKEA.
Maybe Brandon thinks that Swedish people just have half-built furniture. And
Maybe so.
it's their aesthetic. But he's ordered new stuff, and we have a choice whenever we go to IKEA. The IKEA in Austin is actually in Round Rock, so it's either get in the car for an hour or wait 6 weeks for delivery.
Austin's a really weird town with the suburbs or the exurbs or whatever you would call.
Don't most places have that,
Round
though?
Rock. No, I just mean like the way it's laid out, where like we're in Austin now, but if you go one further exit south, and we're only like 5 miles from downtown.
If that.
We're on the south side, and you go one more exit south, you're out of Austin.
Yeah, you're in the country.
On the north side, you can go like 30 miles and still be in Austin. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like totally lopsided town.
If you look at Austin on Google Maps, it's like the city, and then just south of it is all green country, and then north of it is just like concrete suburban landscape.
Didn't we go south to go to that barbecue tour?
The barbecue tour?
Yeah.
We took Monty out to Lockhart, and he got sick.
You get sick at
No, he's coughing, so I was making a joke.
ah.
No, but we went down to Lockhart, Texas.
He's got barbecue lung.
I think we talked about it before, but being from Texas, we take great pride in our barbecue, and I think everyone pretty much agrees that if you want really good barbecue, you have to go about 40 miles outside of Austin and go to Lockhart, Texas.
That's correct.
I don't think we mentioned this yet. The whole George Foreman thing.
Oh,
yeah,
that was a bizarre story.
that was a strange story, wasn't it? So Brandon has been on this big kick where he's going to become Brandon 2.0. And I don't know how he's going to lose weight. He's such a skinny guy to begin with, but he's been...
Oh, I thought he was going to install electronics in his body. I didn't know.
he's going to upgrade
was-
himself.
I wouldn't say Brandon's that skinny.
Yeah?
No.
Okay. So we're not funny. Brandon's fat. So the big thing is that with Brandon, he has been annoying the hell out of me, particularly in the office, because he won't stop talking about his George Foreman grill. And in his apartment, he got this George Foreman grill.
Apparently, have you heard of the George Foreman grill?
No,
They're not. They don't get much widespread recognition. Not many people know about them. They have a very small marketing campaign. This George Foreman grill.
I had to look it up on Wikipedia.
Did you?
Apparently, they've sold about 20 billion of these fucking things. No, but yeah,
Didn't you give me a George Foreman grill for a wedding gift
did I?
like 10 years ago?
That sounds awesome.
like it was a George Foreman skillet.
I wouldn't have done that.
No?
Not for your wedding.
What's
Yeah.
the difference between
That's
a
pretty
grill
funny.
and a skillet?
A grill.
Maybe it was like a Muhammad Ali hot plate.
One's like a frying pan.
Oh.
And one's like a grill. I don't know how to say it. They're just two different things.
Let's see.
This has been the thing. Like as we work with younger
one
people,
you put potatoes in, the other you do not.
like Monty and Brandon, we're constantly having discussions that are weird discussions about.
I'm only like 6 years younger than you and 6 years older than Brandon.
Yeah, but you're a very focused person for your age. Like you have had your experience. Like for instance, I came in here. We bought Monty a laptop when he first started working here, and I noticed that he has completely torn off the cover of the laptop, the keyboard. And I said, Monty, what happened to your laptop? Because I could see like circuitry through the front of his laptop, and he said, "Oh, there was a switch on there that I didn't like,
You know
so
those-
I ripped off. I ripped off the front of my laptop."
Those like volume control, and it's got controls the wireless. It's one of those touch pads where it controls the wireless and like the bass, and like it has the play and the forward button and stuff. Well, I don't know. Some wires got crossed, and it constantly flips on my wireless network. So I just ripped it off. I don't know. It wasn't working.
So how did you rip it off your laptop? Did you just like grab it in rage
Well,
and
I mean-
pull it off, or was this calculated?
It wasn't that easy. I cut my nails that day, so I had to get a screwdriver. And I just, jammed the screwdriver under the keyboard, and I just had to pull it out. And it was actually surprisingly easy. It came off really well. But I had to take down the the connector because I didn't want to get like electrocuted or anything because I was still plugged in at the time. But
He does. He has like one of those circuitry ribbons taped down
With
so they
masking
continue
tape.
That's
to-
what I like about Monty. He's a most direct solution, most direct path to the solutions
But it-
kind of guy. Like my thought would have been like, oh man, I gotta like go online and research this and figure out the software patch for this or whatever. Monty's like, nope, pair of pliers, take care of it.
You know, I would have
Done.
did it months ago, but every time I ask Gus about it, he's like, "Don't worry, we'll take care of it. We'll call them up and get some technician sent out. You know, don't void the warranty." I'm like, "Ah, Jesus." And then, you know, it was a day when Gus wasn't around. I just made sure everything.
But a screwdriver
So,
was.
but yeah, I'm not sure what would have happened if Gus was around.
So you know, my solution would have been you would have gone on internet. Mine would have been I'm going to make a note of this so I can complain about it on the podcast. Mine is just complain about things endlessly until somebody else fixes them. That doesn't work.
Except
though.
for the George Foreman grill, which is a great product.
So Brandon's aggravating me about this George Foreman grill. And while we're on the topic of cooking things and stuff our guys don't know, apparently, Brandon the other day wanted a timer. Because what was he cooking?
he
was cooking a
he
steak.
brought his George Foreman grill in.
He bought a new one for the office.
and he brought a steak in and a bunch of other
So he
shit.
cooked a steak on his George Foreman
And
grill.
he's like, "I need a timer. Let me run the microwave on empty for 3 minutes." And well, Bernie heard it. He's like, "Oh, what were you you microwaved the steak?" He's like, "No, I just turned on the microwave to have a timer." And both Bernie and I were like, "What the fuck are you doing? You cannot run a microwave on empty. Did it not explode in your face?"
He'd never heard that before.
Brandon also thinks that bread has no calories. Brandon is exactly the kind of guy you're hoping does not have the ability to edit Wikipedia articles.
We can make a blog like stuff Brandon's discovering that everybody already knows. A, bread has calories. Bread is not the healthiest thing to eat. You can't run a microwave with nothing in it. A black widow spider is poisonous. He didn't know that black widows are poisonous. Never heard that before, ever.
That's a bad one to find out the hard way.
I'll keep a blog of them. But anyway, so we go to Lockhart, and Brandon was bragging about his George Foreman grill endlessly, and so we're eating this food, and I made the joke to Brandon while we're eating this barbecue, and it was deliciously good. I said, "I bet they cooked it on a George Foreman grill," and he's like, very funny. And then I walked out to get more food to send back for you guys at the office because Matt, you didn't come down.
I didn't get to come down, but I did enjoy the leftovers. Thank you very much.
And I'm a shitty boss, but one thing I like to do is feed employees. That's like my favorite thing to do is make sure they have enough food. Basically so they don't leave the office for any reason whatsoever. But so I walk up there to get the extra food, and I had this George Foreman grill joke in my mind as I'm up there. And I'm up at the front counter, and I look at the front counter, and I go, "You gotta be fucking kidding me." I could not believe the luck of this. So I walked back to Brandon. I said, "Brandon, I said they cooked all their food on a George Foreman grill." I said, "You're not going to believe it. They actually do have a George Foreman up there." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "No way. I got to see this." We walk up to the front of the restaurant, and it's George Foreman standing there. He had just happened to come to the restaurant that day in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Like, it's the weirdest setup of all time. The look on Brandon's face is he thought that I flew in George Foreman for this joke. What are the chances of that happening? That the guy you're talking about walks into the place.
It's pretty ridiculous. Did you find out what George Foreman had to eat?
No, I
that
didn't.
day?
I didn't because, God bless the guy, he couldn't make it 5 feet without pictures.
being hounded,
I mean,
yeah.
literally, 5 feet might be an overestimation. I mean, he might have gone 5 inches at a time before it was like, "Hey, champ!" You know, everybody calls him
Yeah.
champ and wants to take a picture with him. Is boxing considered an American sport? Like, not really, right? That's one of the more international sports.
Yeah, it
isn't
really is.
Well, who was Lennox Lewis? Was that the UK guy? That was
And
the
Razor
champ for a long
Ruddock
time?
was, I think
Was
he was
he
either
English as well?
Australian or English. Yeah, I'm going to look that up now. But George Foreman was.
We need Jeff in here to tell us.
George Foreman was
boxing
champ
champion.
back in the Muhammad Ali days, and then he came back in his 40s, and this is like the early 90s, right?
That's
And-
right,
And he started fighting again.
But
Did
it
he-
wasn't fair when he came back because he was just hitting people with the grills. And I thought they should have outlawed that in boxing, but apparently
Yeah, and then
it's all his opponents have grill marks on their faces. It's really bad.
but
They're
they have a
delicious.
little pan underneath them to catch all the fat. So let me look
They
at
have a really
Razor
good
Ruddock
cut,
here.
man. All those guys.
But he was a I think a 2-time champion. I don't know my boxing that well, but he then got his name and face put on these grills that they're electric grills that people plug in apartments so that you can have quote unquote a grill.
grill.
And no offense, they're super shitty. They're like one of those TV products. I mean, it's a terrible thing to have in your house.
Man,
And-
see, I was working on the sponsorship this whole time, And you'd just come in and kill it.
That was going to be our first Drunk Tank
That's right.
podcast sponsor, and I ruined it. But he made more money from those grills than anything else in his life, and he didn't design that, right? It was just
Design the grill?
It was. Hey, Jeff's just walked in. Did George Foreman invent the George Foreman grill, or did he just endorse it?
You guys needed a boxing expert, and this
That's
is what you
right.
called me in for?
Yes,
Exactly.
that's right.
You needed a grilling expert.
Was George Foreman champ twice? Did he get
George Foreman was champ twice.
Was he champ
He
in
was
his
champion
comeback?
early in his career, then he lost it to Muhammad Ali, right?
Right.
In a tremendous fight. Where
He beat
Muhammad
the-
Ali was heavily favored to lose, and he did rope-a-doped him and wore him down.
That was
And,
is this the Rumble and the
It wasn't the Thrilla in Manila.
Thrilla in Manila?
Or was it Thrilla in Manila? It was.
I-
It had. It was
one
a
of
something
those,
in
like,
the something.
catchy Don King names.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. And at that time, George Foreman was like the scariest dude on the fucking planet. And who just left?
Money left.
Oh, okay. And he hates boxing. Couldn't handle it. Boxing and white people, it's too much for him in one room.
His loss to Muhammad Ali in the Rumble in the Jungle in
Rumble in the
1974.
Yeah, and then I think he just put his name on the grill, right? I don't think he was like in the lab working on it.
Well, I don't think he was either.
Fucking,
I don't think
he's
he
got
was-
his coat on and his team of scientists with beakers trying to invent the perfect grease-free grill.
We need 10 more microns of Teflon on this.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that. Yeah, he probably didn't invent it.
Another cool thing about George Foreman is that he named all of his kids, 6 boys, he named them all George Foreman.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's
fantastic.
almost as good as Chad Ochocinco. Didn't he name all of his kids, even the girls, some form of Chad? Like, I think the girls are like Chadette and things like that. I'm not kidding. I think he really did that.
And he's got like 48 kids too, right?
I think
I mean,
so.
he's a athlete.
He's got
so
Ochocinco kids.
He's got like 48 kids that he knows about.
You know, if we had had a girl, my wife swears she would have named our daughter Bernadette, and we would have called her Bernie. Instead of giving any of our boys the Bernie name, like Junior. And I thought it would be great to have a girl named Junior, too. That would have been fun. But we didn't.
That would have been.
Luckily for this girl, we never had her, and she wasn't stuck with that name.
Well, my wife wanted to name a kid Jesus. So.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Big
Not
time.
Jesus?
No, Jesus. Straight up Jesus.
Like
And,
G-E-Z-U-S.
Yeah, G-E-Z-U-S. Yeah. You nailed it.
Jeez. Jesus? Really?
She wants to, yeah. Trying to name our kid Boxcar Jesus Ramsey.
So this would
The
be a boy
entire
or this would be a
world.
girl?
It would be a boy. The entire world intervened.
Boxcar Jesus.
Yeah.
So you guys done having kids? You gonna have more kids?
It's like a Kerouac poem, Boxcar Jesus.
It is, yeah. It's actually Allen Ginsberg.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. It's a little too flowery for Kerouac. I don't know. Why? Do I have to make a decision right now?
No. You know, I watch Mad Men, and they're at the point now in the history of the real world where
Is this a spoiler?
they're watching. I don't think so. I mean, it's just contextual. It's not.
I don't really care for the audience. I just care for me. 'cause
It's the
I'm
real
behind.
world stuff, so you should know it. It's like-
Yeah, please just keep in mind I
By the
haven't
way-
seen episodes, seasons 1 through whatever.
Yeah, the Nazis lost. Spoiler. But they're at the point where they're watching like where in the real world Cassius Clay is becoming Muhammad Ali and then becoming champion of the world. So
Sure.
it's interesting to watch that stuff take place. And of course, they're in the show. They're not even watching on television. They're listening to it on a radio in a bar, and that's how they watch it.
What a sad existence it must have been to have been born before today.
You're exactly right.
God.
Get your news from the radio.
Yeah, no kidding. Or like old
Yeah,
dudes
what if
used
you
to
only
sit on
had
their
to
front porch and
What if
listen
you
to
could only listen to certain types of programs? You couldn't actually view them.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, that's how my grandpa listened to baseball games. You know, it's like
Yeah.
who the fuck could listen to a baseball game?
We're like 5 guys talking in a room.
Yeah, that too. That would be also bad.
You know what's crazy too? With think about with the radio. It's just like when you start listening to someone on the radio, and then you finally see the person, a picture of the person, or you see them in an interview, and you're like, "Wow, that's what that guy looks like." And it's always like the radio is the thing where you kind of you don't have a visual, so you still have your imagination working.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of have that with books, but books are mostly fictional. But a lot of people got their news back in the day from the radio. Like, I wonder if people had this idea of what Hitler looked like in their head, or if maybe they didn't have TV.
Well-
the moon landing, like, what did they think our astronauts looked like? Did they have big glass globes for helmets? You know,
Well, that's the thing with FDR, right? There's a lot of Americans didn't know he was in a wheelchair and had polio.
Yeah.
what?
I think the moon landing was a little
Something like
different
this.
because it was nationally televised. But yeah, like Hitler, luckily we had like cartoons.
Is that what
yeah,
spawned
yeah,
the
Looney Tunes,
the whole robot Hitler at the end of fucking Wolfenstein?
Yeah, they had Wolfenstein 3D back on their Victrola phonographs. But but I mean, the moon landing's a bad example because isn't that the most
60s.
watched TV event in history?
Well, that or MASH, right?
It probably had more match
Or the evolution of dance, I think, right?
Oh,
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
actually
on YouTube.
Or Girlfriend by
That thing has been
Avril Lavigne.
completely
Or
passed by.
Any Justin Bieber video, I think, is ahead of it.
I'm pretty sure the number one watch video on YouTube now is no
I'm going to say
longer.
Justin Bieber.
I think it's
I'm
the
gonna say-
Charlie biting the finger.
I'm going to say Justin Bieber. Anybody else? Let's vote on this.
I'm gonna
I don't
go
pay
with
attention to this
Justin Bieber as well. And
I
can
have no idea what any of the songs would be.
I actually heard a Justin Bieber song the other day. It was pretty good.
Was it?
That kid's got something. I can see why everybody likes him.
I got no
He's got
problem with
Carrie's
that kid.
hairdo.
Yeah, he does. Oh, he's gorgeous. Don't get me wrong.
My nieces love them.
Your nieces love Justin Bieber?
Yes, that's right. They're
How
like,
do you feel about
They're
that?
like 13, 14-year-olds.
Did you guys see the video of him running away from his fans on a Segway?
No.
It was pretty
On a
big a while
Segway?
ago. Yeah, he was like trying to escape his fans on a Segway. It was pretty funny.
How could you possibly not outrun a Segway? Especially if you're a teenage girl.
I don't know. Well, you're so overcome. You've got the vapors, right? It's hard.
Vapors. I don't think that's what the vapors mean. I like Justin Bieber, though, because he's probably the best example of someone going from the internet and becoming a big star. I mean, we have lots of people who are already stars that come do stuff on the internet. Like, Will Wheaton was a celebrity outside of the internet, but this is a guy who came from the internet.
Hands down.
Did he? I had
became a
no
star.
idea where he
And
came from.
Yeah,
YouTube.
he came from
internet thing?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Usher saw he had like a video that had like 2 million views. Usher saw it, signed him, and overnight sensation. I don't think
Really?
there probably won't be another Justin Bieber to come from the internet, at least for a long time. All right, that's enough of Jeff. I'm out.
Bye, Jeff.
Later, Jeff.
So, Matt, did you see this Half-Life 2 CG thing that somebody put up on the web?
You showed me that yesterday.
Did you watch the whole thing?
No.
No?
It was mostly text. What was it?
Well, it's a teaser, right? So
Oh,
it's like
teaser.
it's like 5 or 6 shots.
You know what I get tired of is the people out there who supposedly have a big project that they're gonna put out and just put, they work on like the highlights of it and then they just stop there. I've seen a lot of that.
I think the thing that I don't like is when somebody makes something like this and then people immediately pick it up. Even like reputable press agencies pick it up as this is a Half-Life 2 movie that's in the works. You remember when that guy made that Fall of Reach script and he made about 6 concept art paintings, which probably he farmed out to an artist friend of his, probably took about maybe a week to put those 6 things out. And suddenly there was a Halo movie in production.
Didn't it make it all the way to being linked to Spielberg?
Yeah,
somehow?
that Steven Spielberg was making a Halo movie, and it was going to be in theaters in 2011. And it's just, I don't know why people do that. When they get so fooled when they see something of quality on the internet, they're like, "Oh, this can't possibly be an artist making this. This is a production company, and they're working on it, and here it comes."
Right.
And they report
Yeah.
it that way.
Right. I actually get that was actually kind of the original perception of my stuff, except I was very forward about it just being my work. Is like, wait, this doesn't look like something one person could do, yet here it is. I'm looking at it, know. But there wasn't the
But
assumption.
the problem was that you actually put an entire piece together.
yeah.
If
yeah.
you'd only done like 2 little, snippets
Right.
of 5-second animation, and then said like leaked from
Yeah.
X Studio or whatever, then people would have thought it was.
But so, like, I guess that was the original appeal of my work was, like, I'd put something together, had a legitimate beginning and end, and looked like it had, like, a production value to it that was more than a single person could handle, which, that's kind of, albeit that is kind of rare, but it didn't have that connotation where people were like, oh, this must be something official, right? Which is what this Half-Life 2 thing is, right? You're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I mean, people are excited about it, and now I'm seeing reports of there's a Half-Life CG movie in the works.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Valve did something like that, but it would be Valve that does it. I mean, from my experience, Valve is not a company that just kind of, loans their IP out or licenses it in any way. I haven't seen that. Have you?
No, and they've also produced some pretty stellar movies in house, so you would think they would be up to the task of doing it if they wanted to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you look at those Meet the X,
stuff,
series they have for their Team Fortress 2. I mean, those are all cool. Gary, you watch those at all?
No, I haven't seen those.
You haven't watched are you not a Team Fortress fan?
I have Orange Box for the 360, but I never had anyone else to play with.
No.
Kinda sad.
You're talking about the commercials, like the one that's like Meet the
Meet
Heavy.
the Spy and
No, I never watched them just because I never played the game.
Fuck.
Hey, man.
Yeah, they're very cool. They're like
I will
in-engine-
now from the dump.
They are in-engine CG pieces essentially, where they take their own models, and I don't know how they do it exactly, but it just looks like it's the development team making them. They got a lot of really talented people on that Valve team too.
They do.
It seems like I'm meeting more and more people in the video game industry who have come from movies, or they just flop back and forth between the movie industry and the video game industry.
yeah, it's something that
is
it
true.
seems like it should have been a thing like a long time ago. Going back and forth, but like video games are now almost to the point where they are almost the equivalent of CG animated movie productions.
Yeah.
So it makes sense now, like the same technical people and the same artists cross over on those. When I was working in Hollywood 10 years ago, whatever it was, I only had ever worked with one artist in visual effects in movies that also did games. Only one that I had ever met, and now it seems like there's tons of people who go back and forth.
Would you consider us a movie studio?
I don't know. That's a good question because we're definitely in between the two, and we do something that's more like video game companies and less like a movie company. I would consider us more of a movie company because we don't make anything interactive, really.
Right.
We do some things with the online space, like different endings without telling people that there's different endings for things, and they just click on different links.
So it's true, like where I guess you could say a movie production, and I came here from game
From
production.
games, that's true.
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah. And you were working on the interactive side. You weren't working on the cutscene side.
That's right. I was a designer, so I
And
actually,
you got into games by making movies.
That's right.
It comes full circle.
Well, one of the big things we do here too that makes us more like a video game company, just as a business, is that we actually hire people that work here, and then we go from project to project as a team. Whereas in movie production, or what we normally just call general production, you hire people up for a job, and then all those people go away.
And it's over.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Did you
out
ever?
the door.
I mean, did you ever work for a company on more than one project?
I worked for Warner Brothers on more than one project, but it was more a case of a project opened up, serendipitously right at the time when the previous one ended, and I jumped over onto it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a case where it was like a sure thing, like you're hired and it's a position that goes on forever. It was definitely project by project basis.
That's actually a little more. That's actually kind of the situation in games. It's not as obvious, but in games, people tend to assume. Well, not really tend to assume, but there's you kind of get used to the idea that your position isn't quite permanent either. Like that, just as soon as this game is done, because you know how they kind of build up the staff when a game goes into crunch. The staff kind of just tends to grow in order to deliver the game.
Yeah.
That you kind of assume that you could be moving on just as soon as this game is done.
Like moving on as opposed to moving out.
Right.
They're gone. But I think video games, as they grow, like you said, I think they're becoming more like movies in that sense. And there's a clear line in games where you have contract employees.
Right.
And they're not full-time employees. And they know that well the entire time they're working. And unfortunately, from what I've seen, it's like the line seems pretty clear that, there's two different tiers of employee, essentially.
Yeah.
And then, some of the guys from contract might come on full-time afterwards, but then the contract guys move on to something else.
I just like to say I'm very happy with our system of keeping people around.
Yeah, Kerry helped a ton during Revelation production there at the end.
Well, this podcast was going to be talking about Revelation, right? And we haven't really talked about that much, but Kerry's contribution to Revelation, we haven't had much opportunity to really put out there. But he basically did, what would you say, like 80% of the machinima?
Yeah, Kerry,
bobbing?
what episode did you come on?
I think it was either 5 or 6.
Yeah. So you can see, like, there's
Yeah.
a
Really?
big
Yeah.
steep
You've been here that long?
decline in quality. And then
Oh,
a
man.
slow, gradual clawing our way back up climb to acceptability towards the end of the season.
That's right.
But yeah, but Kerry and Kerry basically sat with me the entire time and put up with constant abuse from me.
It was strange that you made him sit in your lap. I don't know why you did that.
Hey, you know what I mean? Chairs are expensive. Everybody's got a lap. I don't know what to say. Now some of us have a restraining order. But Kerry's been a lot of fun. I met Kerry back at PAX like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And been keeping a conversation with Kerry on and off for a while. And then he came on as an intern and then hired full time. That's our thing. Our contractors are interns, essentially.
Cheap labor is great.
And then
Hey.
I was under the impression until this podcast I was still an intern.
we have paid interns, though. Not paid well.
How did
but-
you?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
How did you meet Bernie originally, Carrie?
I met Bernie through I met him at PAX, but
I thought you were going to say a personal ad at first.
no, not on Craigslist.
CougarLife.com. Was that it? Sorry, I just heard about CougarLife.com and I'm obsessed with it now.
What? Your life?
CougarLife.com.
With
Have you seen
Cook?
an ad for this?
No.
Is that
I just saw the first ad for it.
not
the other
a
day.
sponsor, by
I
the
was
way.
sure. I was sure it was a parody. I was sure it was not real because it's like it's an ad for like a singles thing, but for the older women who are
Oh,
generally referred to
Cougar
as
Life.
cougars.
Cougar Life. I thought you said Kook Your Life.
Kook Your Life? No, that would be a less popular site probably. But anyway, I did not mean to interrupt
That's
you
right.
with cougars. But I don't.
well, just to add to that, I've been kind of floating around colleges, and at one point, my one of my mascots was the Cougars, and we had a place on campus called
Was
the
she hot?
Cougar Den. And I always felt uncomfortable walking in. Like I felt I was gonna walk into a room of
And just some 40-year-old woman's gonna rip your shirt off.
yeah.
What is it? What's the
We have established that Carly looks like Justin Bieber after all.
what is
Hey,
the
it's the other
age
way around.
range for a cougar?
I don't know. What is the age range for a cougar? I don't know the answer.
Aren't there now
They-
different
I wanna-
classifications?
I want to say like older 30s to like older 40s.
Here's something
Is that right?
Here's something that kind of creeps me out, and you don't have to talk about your home life if you don't want to. But my wife, as we've been married now 10 years, my wife and I've noticed that like our outside interests, like people we find attractive, are starting to skew. Like I like people that are about my age that I find attractive. Like say, Courtney Cox and Jennifer Aniston are older than me, but like that. Those kind of women. My wife likes like the Twilight guy. Like she's staying at the 20-year-old range. She's staying there.
Is it which team? Is it the werewolf guy or the zombie?
I think she likes
Zombie.
I think she likes the zombie guy, because he's the brooding like emo one, right?
It seems to be, yeah.
Not the buff.
If I
shirtless
walked
guy.
around my house acting like that guy, she would kick my ass out of there in about 10 seconds.
How did this Twilight movie get made? Honestly, how did this get made? I mean,
How did
if
3
you
get
pitched-
made?
If you pitched this to somebody, they would think you were retarded, basically, right? It's like, oh no, it's cool because the vampire and chick, they fall in love, but there is a twist. There's a werewolf. It's like, what? No, that's just like something like a 5th grader would write. I mean, am I crazy?
But aren't you a big Harry Potter fan? How can you possibly be upset about Twilight if you're such a big Harry Potter fan?
Okay, you got me there.
Right? I mean, it's
Well,
just like
Well, Harry Potter's
here's
better. That's
here's
why.
my defense. My defense of Harry Potter is that it's an entire magic universe, and this was just like it was the way that I've had to see Twilight because I'm married, so that's what you have to do when you're married. Like they set it up as like a vampire thing, and then it's like, oh, the big twist at the end is there's a werewolf here too.
yeah, okay.
But there's like Harry Potter. It's an entire world. It's not like, oh, and by the way, he knows magic. It's like you go into it like if you're going to accept like this is the universe, or you're not going to accept that. But the Twilight thing was there's a world with vampires. Oh, and by the way, this world also has werewolves. I mean, it's like if they threw in aliens at the end, would people just go,
I don't know shit
yeah,
about Harry
cool, aliens, yeah, let's throw those in too. Maybe she's going to have
I think
the
if it had
foray going on
aliens,
with,
I might watch it.
Tweebop from Planet X.
Don't they throw in random stuff in the Harry Potter, like the flying griffin things and the what's the Quidditch?
I think Matt's point is it's a larger world.
It's a larger world.
that's more consistent with itself.
Exactly.
But they have the regular world. He lives in a house with.
But
they-
they draw very certain lines between the two. So it's like you go into that movie.
well, you like
knowing
Lord
what
of the
you're gonna
Rings,
see.
right?
Oh yeah,
This is Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, basically the same things. And to me, in terms of they establish a world and then they stick to the rules of the world.
not all the same thing.
Twilight was like, they could. I mean, what else could they throw in? If Frankenstein walked up at the end of that movie, you would just go, "Yeah, sure, Frankenstein. Why the hell not?" I mean, she's probably going to be dating a mummy in the next one.
Twilight had one rule: it was no shirts.
It was no
We got-
She's going to be a cougar.
hey Bella,
Dating
let's
a
go
werewolf.
away on vacation. I got a cabin up at the Black Lagoon. Nothing can happen to us up there.
They're going to ride the Loch Ness monster into the sunset.
See, that's the world they should establish. They're just in the world where all the monsters exist. That's it.
I'd rather see that movie.
Every single monster. Yeah, I don't know. It just seems like stuff goes in cycles to me, where like certain things are big, like space gets big for a while, and then vampires get big for a while or monster scary movies. Like we saw a revival of in the 80s, there were all those slasher films that were really disgusting.
Yeah.
And then those kind of came back earlier in the 2000s.
They're kind of back now.
Like Saw and all that stuff. Then I think they're going away.
Are they? I can't ever tell.
Saw, I think, was the big
one that's really interesting to me right now that's making a big revival is like the uber macho, super kind of masculine hero, like typically portrayed by Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger or one of these kinds of guys. It's like you had the Expendables, which came out, which surprisingly was like a huge hit.
Yeah.
And then
Rambo was
then
kind of like a cult hit.
Yeah, and Rambo was a fairly big hit too. And now you have Duke Nukem coming out. And Duke Nukem is kind of like the parody of those characters, but it's a wink and a nod parody. It's like it's very slight.
Talking about Duke Nukem the game now.
Duke Nukem the game, but just in terms of an overall cultural, rise of this type of character and genre, it seems to be coming back.
I don't give a fuck about Duke Nukem. I don't want to talk about Duke Nukem anymore. I'm so burned out on Duke Nukem news. I don't care. I'm not interested in the game. And the game when it came out, like whenever the first ones came out, wasn't that good to begin with. It wasn't that interesting, and it wasn't that fun. And I don't know why people are so fascinated by this goddamn game.
I think honestly it's because it was kept away from people for so long. They just wanted it more.
I think at the end it's because you find out he's a werewolf.
I think it's going to be like Snakes
twist.
in the Plane. I think we're going to have this thing, and it's going to be probably one of the first things with games where it's one of those things that's a big deal on the internet, but it's not going to translate to anything. Which is weird because video games and the internet go so closely together.
Yeah.
But I think the fantasy of Duke Nukem or this like running joke everyone has, I think that's way bigger than the property.
I
And
think, the second the
You're
game
right.
comes out, nobody's going to care.
No,
it's because it may still not come out.
Joke's over.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, they should just sell that property from game company to game company as a marketing ploy.
There is a very strange disconnect nowadays between like marketing and even like fan-generated enthusiasm when you talk about stuff like Duke Nukem and Scott Pilgrim and other things that are like they seem to be huge on the internet.
We've talked about this before on the podcast, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's just that it's like if you only got all of your impressions from Twitter or Dig or whatever the the internet blogosphere or whatever they call that realm. You know what I'm saying?
The Magic Universe?
The Magic Universe, yeah. If you only got all of your impressions from that and not, walking around actually talking to people, whatever, you would think that those movies, those video games were the biggest thing ever. The second coming of Boxcar Jesus, whatever. And really, they're not. They come out like snakes on a plane. It's like people thought snakes on a plane, like the idea and the marketing and just the cheesiness factor of it was really interesting and really funny, but nobody wanted to actually see the movie.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's just does it translate to box office? And we talked about that. I talked about like
or actual
Ashton Kutcher and things like having so many followers on Twitter, but then an Ashton Kutcher movie makes $154,000 at the box office. When he has 5 million followers on Twitter, it's like don't they follow him because they're interested in Ashton Kutcher? Isn't that the deal? So it's there's always like these things every now and then that makes the conversations on the internet seem irrelevant. Only
does.
because it doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't lead to any kind of like actual business or anything. But you mentioned Dig a second ago. What do you think?
Yeah. Are we talking about the Dig redesign?
I don't think we've ever talked about that, but that is actually one of the biggest stories I think going on right now on the internet. Carrie, what do you surf when you go online?
I did go to Dig.
Oh, you did?
I did.
And what happened? You don't go to Dig anymore?
Nope.
All right, so why don't you go to Dig anymore?
I don't know. I didn't like the change. There's something about
Really?
it. I just made me not want to go to the site anymore. It wasn't. I wasn't listening to other people. I went to the site one day and I noticed it looked like Facebook, and I thought, not so much. And we were also really busy at that time, so I kind of stopped.
But have you replaced that with something else?
No.
Okay,
I haven't.
so you just don't go there anymore.
I haven't been going to like a aggregate news site or anything like that. No.
Did you find that you were going there less before the switchover, and you just stopped once the switchover happened?
Yeah.
Okay,
It
so
makes
you were already on
decline.
a decline. In other
Yeah.
words, okay. I just think it's interesting because there's a phenomenon. It's just in general fandom, and I guess it applies to the internet in general, where people build stuff up, and they're all part of this community, and they build something up, and then there's a phase that they hit where they go through the teardown phase, where part of the fun is tearing that thing down that they help build up. We see like Star Wars Episode 1 is a great example where
it's the I found it first. It was cool until everybody else found it. Kind of mentality, right?
yeah.
You know, I mean,
Everything starts getting less cool the
Cool.
moment you find it.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you found it, it was at its height of cool, and then it was all downhill from there.
Right.
But like Dig is interesting to me because I saw an article about it that talked about the percentage of domains and URLs where their links come from, and it could almost be broken down into like a handful of like 10 domains make up like 90% of the links, and then there's like a subset of like of this few other random material that comes from everywhere else. But that whole premise of Dig, correct me if I'm wrong, was that it's supposed to be a user generated and user promoted ranking of links, and that's what the social aspect of it is. But I think people got tired of it. It seemed like it was just particular domains probably that were paying to get there somehow or whatever, and
or people trying to game the system.
People trying to game the system, and it no longer felt like you had any input as a user.
Should probably explain what we're talking about really quickly. In case you're not familiar, Dig.com, Digg.com is a site. It's an aggregation site where you can send in links. Like if we wanted to promote Red versus Blue, and we thought, okay, let's submit it to Dig.
Is it kind of like a Kotaku in a way?
Not quite. It's like I would submit a link to say to the latest episode of Red versus Blue, or one of our fans would do that if it's something you want to get out there. And then theoretically, the way it works is in the back end, it shows up, and people who like this thing can dig it, which is basically just upvoting it. And then if it gets enough digs, it ends up on the front page. Theoretically. But then, of course, once you have a system like that, people will always should figure out how to game that, especially once it gets more popular. And then the Dig community is very vocal as well. They participate in comments, and then you can upvote and dig the comments that people make as well. And then there was a big beta test where they did it. I think they called in like major users and did a very long beta test because I knew it was coming for a long time. One day they did a switch over to where the way that you submit stories, and I'm not entirely clear on it, has changed to where they focus more on legitimate news sources so that people aren't just making blogs to redirect traffic through them and then submitting that to Dig. But then also changing the look and feel. Like Carrie said, you think it looks a lot like Facebook now? Yeah. Maybe like slight changes to the color scheme and things. But the end result of all this is that there's been a huge user revolt where they actively hate it, which users hate every change.
Right.
If you're a member of a site,
and I think in this case, it seems like the design change maybe was just the straw that broke the camel's back, or at least maybe like brought some of the underlying problems to the surface and made it more apparent to everybody that it wasn't serving them in the community way that they thought it was been originally intended to do.
But it's been very interesting to see like this perfect storm of the way the users were heading, and then with the change at the same time, where it's amazing to see the effect it's had on that site in a very short amount of time.
So what I'm getting is that people don't like this change and they move to Reddit.
Reddit's one of them. Yeah, Reddit's being uptick.
Similar to Dig.
Yeah, it's another aggregation site. To me, they're all derivative of like Fark or Slashdot. I mean, everyone always thinks they're the one inventing the wheel, but it's just a reinvention. And they've moved on to something else, or other places. But you can kind of see because it's all numbers, right? How many upvotes something gets, how many comments something gets, and it's just down across the board. I mean, you can't really hide that because they post all that stuff there. Something that might have gotten 800 digs before now gets about 100 digs. And whereas it might have got 300 comments, or 250 comments, and now it gets 8.
I'm also getting that. I don't follow any of these, so this is all fresh to me. But I'm also getting that because it apparently looks like Facebook now, some people dislike it.
Yeah, is there that's what I'm wondering too. Is there an intense Facebook backlash that's just about to crest? Like with the movie coming out, and there's that lawsuit, and it seems like more and more I hear like I don't like a site because it looks like Facebook or because it's trying to be Facebook. And if you don't like because it's trying to be Facebook, is that because you don't like Facebook either?
Or is it just the Me Too attitude that kind of rubbed them the wrong way?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the big thing to take away from it is that it always seems like the internet is whatever the current 5 biggest sites are, like Google or Facebook or Dig or whatever. And it seems like those sites can't go away. They're like, they filled in this gap, and that's what they do. Now, Google is a totally different animal. But sites like Dig or Facebook, like if you said what's going to be after Facebook, I think there's a lot of people who think that Facebook is the thing. And it's
CougarLife.com.
It's Cougar Life, yeah. And it's not going anywhere. But there will be something after Facebook. Facebook, if nothing else, young people who are too young to use the internet now will grow up, and they're not going to want to use Facebook
They're going
because
to use Headbook.
old people like Carrie use Facebook, you know?
Yeah.
And they'll move on to whatever, you know? There'll be something entirely
My day,
new.
we had MySpace.
MySpace. Like, I mean,
We
MySpace
had-
had a stranglehold
We
on
had
the internet.
Friendster.
It did. And MySpace, I mean, same thing with the teardown there.
We
People
had
hate
GeoCities.
MySpace,
Yeah.
you know?
We had
they're off something else.
Tripod. What happened to
Now,
Tripod?
I've got a question
GeoCities.
about Dig because I haven't been on the internet a lot lately. I've been looking at sites, but I would always see articles and it would have like a link to the side of the article that would say, do you want to dig this? Are those going away now?
I don't think so. I think now when I go to a news article, it seems like there's like 50 buttons like that.
There are.
Oh my
The
god,
buttons have gotten out of control.
they really have.
I mean, it's like, do you want to dig it or stumble it or read it or read it or wonder about it or go somewhere and have a nap? I don't know. There needs to be a werewolf and a vampire button at the bottom as well.
Let's talk more about Revelation production.
Sure. Knock it out, buddy. What do you want to talk about?
I don't know. I just throwing it out there.
Stuff and junk.
Someone else started.
I'm just the idea man. You guys have to provide the content. Well, the DVD just came out. It came out last Monday. What day is today?
Yeah,
it came out last Monday.
last
Man,
Monday.
we had a lot of users on our site last night for not putting out an episode.
Well, we kind of got them in the zone of coming Mondays at 9 Central. To
Don't
come to
get
the
out of
site.
that zone. Don't get out of that zone.
Yeah. More to come.
That's,
Matt, you're working on shorts now, right now, right?
We're working on shorts. I think we're all going to go shoot something tomorrow.
Cool.
And we had a little bit of a stockpile of some stuff we had shot, and we've now burned through it. We actually had to stockpile some stuff for the move, and then I was hoping we had stockpiled enough to get through the intense period of Red versus Blue production.
Yeah.
But we clearly didn't, and we just didn't have enough, which was the cause of our little break that we had there. It was like a 4-week break for shorts, I think,
Sounds like it, yeah.
in the midst of our heaviest cycle on Red versus Blue.
Wasn't really a break for us.
It wasn't a break for us. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, break sounds like crossing around.
Yeah.
Put our feet up.
Yeah. I guess we
That
should
was a
make
pretty
clear.
intense period. How did that period of production compare to other things that you've worked on? I mean, there was a point where we had hotel rooms across the street, and we would just go sleep in our hotel rooms.
You know what? Now that you mentioned the hotel rooms, I'd actually say it was easier than the most of the production times I've had.
Yeah?
Yeah, like when I was doing, was 2 years ago when I was at Namco and we were on crunch at our game. I was on crunch in a game, and as soon as I was done with that, and everyone wanted to just relax and take a break, I started production on prototypes for our next game, single-handedly, by the way. While everyone else was like, "All right, it's time to vacate and take a vacation and stuff," and I decided I wanted to deliver 3 episodes of Dead Fantasy at the same time.
Wow.
I started that and did that within 4 months. There was a lot of swearing going on in my private time.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, how about like the actual the production crunch time? Like, you've been through video game crunch.
video game crunch is the worst. Oh my god, they
because you're treated worse, right? We treat you really well here at Rooster Teeth
Yeah,
Industries.
Hotel room.
we got a hotel room, right?
No food from Amazon.
Bernie would order a lot of what's it called, healthy.
Fresh mixers.
Fresh
That's our
mixers.
current menu
Those are
item
great.
of choice.
Those are great. You fucking microwave them. You got ziti and meat sauce.
My only problem with the
4 stars on Amazon?
the ziti and meat sauce is like it says 300 calories on there,
Really?
but it's really like 3,000 calories because you have to eat 10 of them.
Yeah,
What?
that's true.
Well, because one is like bubble gum. It's like it didn't even. I mean, it didn't fill you up at all. It's like you didn't eat anything.
Well, nothing
So I
fills
like-
me up. I could eat after I eat every single time. But the problem is, if you eat 10 of them, you pretty much have your yearly supply of sodium.
sodium,
So be
yeah.
careful. You'll have a stroke instantaneously.
But no, production was pretty cool for us, I think, because it's like, I mean, one of the things that was different for me here versus like game jobs that I had, which I was pretty much there 24 hours a day.
Yep.
Well, not 24 hours a day, but like, I'd do 2 days straight or maybe even 3 days straight. Here, I could do 2 days straight or 3 days straight, but I'd come in whenever. Like, you'd see me, like Matt just was saying, I'd come in at like, I didn't see him for like 2 weeks because I was coming in at like 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. and leaving at like 5 a.m. or something, or some stuff like that.
I remember Brandon got off from me one time. He was actually worried about you. He was going to call the police at one point.
Why?
I don't know.
That was that week that I was talking about earlier. They were, like we hadn't seen you in so long, and it's like, what's going on? But then I got on your computer and started going through your files and looking at the date modified, to figure out if you had been there. And it turned out you had been there working on stuff we just had not come across
It
yet.
was like a game of finding clues to see that Monty was in the office.
Exactly.
I was producing stuff, which is fun. It's always fun to be making stuff. I'm working on stuff right now.
It is. It is. I mean, I've been in a business admin clearinghouse phase where just taking care of stuff that I
That's a drag, right?
had to neglect a little bit. Well, like at one point we actually had our phone shut off up there because we didn't time our move date right. And remember, we had a month of no internet up at the old office just because we just didn't change our move date in time, and they moved the service down here, and then we forwarded our phones back up there.
Our
but
internet,
you can't do that with internet.
Our internet at the old place was so bad.
Yeah,
it was
terrible.
terrible, and there were so many times when we had to get an episode uploaded, and we would have to leave the office and go to somebody's house to upload just to make sure it got up in time. But when we lost the internet, or like our normal landline internet connection, Gus went out and got one of those clear things, and it turned out that was faster than our original landline internet connection. The only problem was that we had to like hold the computer on the windowsill in order to get any connection.
I remember that, and I was like saying to Brandon, I'm like, "Wow, this is awesome. Why didn't we do this before?" And Brandon's like, "Well, it's not a sound way to run a business." I'm like, "Fuck that! Sound better or sound? I'd go for better."
I think
Monty's not about appearances. Monty's about.
I think Brandon was worried about the insurance or legal hassles if we dropped the computer out the window and it, cracked somebody's skull.
In fact, currently, right now, everyone's in this like moving mode where they're all prettying up their spaces and trying to get their kind of work area to be,
I think we've moved on to printing up your space, like secretly tidying up when you leave.
I just made it as bare minimal workable as I could to just get started working. I got to get that mocap set up right now.
Matt, we did put the two clutteriest guys. Is that the best way to put it?
Cluttery is a word that is very apropos to describe Brandon and Monty.
We put them in the main room.
Brandon has a stack of hard drives.
I don't understand.
They're not connected to anything. No one knows what these hard drives do or what they're for. What do they have on them?
No idea.
But
all I know is he kicks
stacked,
them over every single time he stands up.
Yeah, they're stacked under his desk, and they do nothing except like rob him of foot space.
It's like 14 terabytes of storage he has under his desk, and I don't know what is the purpose of that. What does he do with it?
That Cougar website.
Yeah,
He's
run
archiving it
CougarLife.com. That's why he was upset about the clear connection. Like, we started with the sound business. He's talking about his business. And he runs on the side. But he's actually back up at the old office today. Brandon is, and he is.
Is he cleaning?
Yeah, he's kind of like prepping it for tomorrow.
You guys shooting there tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Spoiler.
Spoiler. Yeah. One last one.
Yeah, we have the old office until the end of this month. So
yeah,
which is cool because we only had to extend our lease there. I think 4 months. So
Jeez.
we got it almost perfect. I mean, those two dates almost came together.
I will say I missed the coffee house downstairs.
Every place we've ever been, we've been next to a coffee house except for this place.
Yeah.
I miss the people at the coffee house.
Mm-hmm.
There was good people over there. It's fun talking to them.
Yeah, I think
They were very nice to us, and they even hosted fans that would come by looking for the office a few times.
I will not miss
they called them customers.
the front gate closing at like 7 p.m. and having to walk around through the back entrance, through shit and
Yeah, you
stuff
mean the
and-
second toilet.
Yeah.
Jeez, you know what was really weird? When we moved into that place, Carrie and Monty weren't there, but we moved into that place. We had a big old present waiting for us on the back
Gross.
step.
Come on.
It was a big old like hobo duker sitting back there, and whoever the guy took, and a used condom was back there too, right? Weren't those the two things?
Yeah,
and
I'm out of this
and
conversation.
the duker was in an old milk carton. Like
Oh.
I don't know why. Like you decide, there's some kind of etiquette there. It's like, well, I'm gonna take a shit on the back step of this building. The least I can do is do it in a milk carton, right? Isn't that what everybody thinks? I don't. And then when we moved out, I don't know if it was the same guy, if he was feeling nostalgic or what, but another one right in the same place, and approximately the same size. Maybe he eats the same thing regularly.
Dear Lord.
I'm just saying.
It's a busy guy.
I'm just saying these are the things you notice when you work downtown.
All right, let's segue to Ben Affleck's career from that discussion. Did you see The Town? Are you interested in that at all?
Are you trying to say that he's lost, like on the back of a milk carton, or was there some kind of other analogy you were trying to?
No, I
pull
was saying
out of
he's
that?
moving on, just like we're moving on from
sure,
Congress.
sure.
That was my analogy
no.
there.
I have not seen The
My
Town,
metaphor.
but everybody's saying good things about it, and it'd be cool to see John Hamm from Mad Men in another role that was worthy of him.
John Hamm should play Fred Flintstone if they ever do live. I guess they have
They
done
did
live
do one.
action with who?
Remember?
John Goodman.
He's John
Yeah.
Goodman.
Yeah.
But that guy has like 5 o'clock shadow instantaneously. I mean, he must shave and just have that 5 o'clock shadow, just like a cartoon character, like Homer Simpson.
If you want to rent that 5 o'clock shadow out, I mean, you know,
It should get endorsements. Just his 5 o'clock shadow. Hi, I'm John Hamm's 5 o'clock shadow. It's okay to drink. I'm around. It's 5 o'clock. To drink whiskey with John Hamm's 5 o'clock shadow. But the cool thing about The Town, which I'm just now realizing, is I knew that Ben Affleck wrote it, and it's supposed to be an awesome movie.
I didn't know that he wrote it.
He also directed
he
it.
directed. It's a second directorial effort.
Is it? What did
Right?
you
He did the other one that was the
Hollywoodland one?
No. It was also set in Boston. It was by the guy Dennis Lehane who wrote Shutter Island.
Uh-huh.
Wrote this one.
He wrote
I'm blanking
he
on
directed
it.
The Departed?
Not The Departed. No. God, what was the name of it? It had his brother Casey Affleck in it. I want to say.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the
Man,
movie.
I can't. Oh, Gone Baby Gone.
Okay.
That was it.
But, that was the promise of Matt Damon and Ben Affleck when they won.
That they were going to be.
Yeah. Right when they won that
they were
Oscar.
Be great creators
Mhm.
behind the camera, not just actors.
And then they both went off and made, Armageddon,
Armageddon.
and The Bourne Identity
Daredevil.
and all that stuff. Daredevil.
Wow. Yikes.
And it seemed like Matt Damon kind of like took off for a while there, was like kind of
Yeah.
outpacing Ben Affleck.
Affleck
At
struggled
first
a
it seemed like
little
Ben Affleck was doing it because he was the star of all those blockbuster movies. And then he made a couple missteps, and then suddenly Matt Damon was making arty, like talented Mr. Ripley and stuff like that. And then
That's right.
Then he was suddenly the guy who was doing everything like the Ocean's 18 or whatever. those
How
movies
many
are
of those
now.
Ocean's movies have they
There's
made?
3
now?
of them now. There's 11 through 13, whatever that means.
They should have named those differently because it feels like there have been 13. Having the 13, maybe it's just because they got extremely tiresome after the first one.
What was the one? Which was the one where Julia Roberts played the woman who looks
looked like Julia Roberts?
What was that?
I don't know.
That was 12. Pretty sure.
I felt like they were improving that plot point literally on the screen. Like I felt like the actors were there making shit up in the movie theater.
They just like you got a command performance.
Right? It just felt like
You were going to pull back the curtain and somehow they were really going to be back there
They
going,
procrastinated.
We got you, Bernie.
yeah, they procrastinated so much they had to do the screening live. Like that's how far behind they were. But I always heard the comment I heard about Ben Affleck and Matt Damon was that if Hollywood can't make these guys good parts, they can always make their own. They can
I think
always,
Roger Ebert said that.
Yeah, is that what he said?
Yeah.
They can always write themselves excellent parts. So it's kind of cool to see that.
It is
I
cool.
mean, I think anybody would do the same though. If you had a chance to be like the lead in a Bruce Willis movie, or in Armageddon or something like that, you probably would do that. You can't pass up that experience.
Probably so. Michael Bay, enormous comet that's going to smash into the earth. What's
So,
that like?
So go see The Town. I'm gonna go see. I haven't seen it, but it's just on the promise that it's gonna be good.
I want to go to hear that Boston accent for 2 hours. I love that Boston accent.
Oh yeah.
And when this is a weird story I haven't told. When we were at PAX, I was sitting next to this nice couple from Boston, and I was in a restaurant.
I remember this.
Like they had a window, like it had some seats that like
Wait,
bar.
you know what? Let me start this story because
Okay,
it starts with
okay.
me. Like, Brandon and I were sharing a room at PAX, right? And this was what, Sunday, right?
Yeah,
And
we were getting ready to go.
This day we're getting ready to go, and Brandon decides to wander off somewhere. I think he was being sentimental about Seattle or something, and I'm just decided, all right, I'm gonna go get some breakfast or something, maybe some coffee, and I had kind of just meandering towards the direction of the convention center. I run into Jeff and Luke. We're walking back, and they're like, "Oh, we forgot shit for the booth," so I decided to go help them. And then we went back to the hotel because they apparently forgot the tripods and like the boxes for the TV and like all that other shit. They had apparently. How can you forget something that big? But anyways, that they needed to bring back to the booth, right? And then we go back to the hotel room also, and then Jeff also happened to forget his badge to get into the convention. So thankfully he was able to take mine. And we grab all the shit and gather in the hotel room.
In their defense, they were still drunk from the night before.
Probably.
Saturday is how they forgot it.
That's
Right.
right.
So like we gather all the shit, like tripods and boxes and shit, to take back to the convention, and we hail a cab. And now at this point, Gus had also met up with us because we'd have forgotten other stuff that we needed to actually start the day with. And so it's me, Jeff, Luke, and Gus hailing a cab with like two sets of tripods and giant boxes and stuff. And then
two giant TVs.
And then
and then so I meanwhile completely unknowing of what was going on with them. I had gone down to get breakfast, and there was this restaurant a block down, and it had like a bar that was next to a big pane glass window looking out at the street. And I'm sitting next to this nice couple from Boston, and I was kind of chit-chatting with them. They were visiting Seattle for the first time, and they were very confused by all the video game stuff going on. They didn't know why there were all these cosplay outfits and everything.
Did you tell them it's always like that?
I said this is the way Seattle is. So didn't you hear about that from your tour guide? But they there's always a guy in a Duke Nukem outfit, walking around with a giant 80 cal machine gun. But they we're looking out the window, and I'm eating my food and looking at my phone or something, and I hear the two of them going, "Oh wow, look at these idiots! Can you believe these guys? How stupid are they? What are they doing? They're never going to fit that in there. Oh, that's hilarious! Now look at them; they're running around." And I look up, and the idiots they're referring to are Luke, Jeff, Gus, and Monty, all trying to figure out how to get these gigantic TVs in this cab that is clearly not going to fit it. And they were running around like Keystone Cops, trying to figure out a way to, squeeze more square footage out of this cab than it actually had. And the couple from Boston thought that was freaking hilarious. They were laughing their asses off.
And those guys are actually always like that, and that is true.
I said those idiots are my friends, unfortunately.
So, Matt, did you ever think about going down to help them at any point? in
No,
this?
I was having too much fun
like
watching them.
Sounds like a scene out of like Pulp Fiction or something, where like two storylines converge at one point.
It was, pretty much. I only wish I had taken video of it, but I was laughing too hard.
I wish I had been more coherent during the panel because, like, I always get that one question. What is it? That question, Bertie, is what programs do you use?
What programs do you use, Monty, to make your CG scenes, your CGI scenes?
That is like every other goddamn email I get and message and comment. It's like, what program do you use?
Mr. Jaded over here. He's so angry.
I wish I had, like, at the panel. The thing is, me and Brandon had not slept the night before we like flew in and stuff. I wish I. At that,
let's hear that story.
At the panel, I wish I had turned to Bernie and been like, "Hey, Bernie, what do you use to write your scripts? Word? All right. So if I download Word, can I write scripts like you?" That would have been a perfect point. But
I'm kind of glad you didn't say that, though. That might not come across that great to a kid coming up and asking the question. He'd probably gone home crying.
They do have a Clippy now that instructs you on how to write red versus blue scripts, I think, don't they?
What's a Clippy?
Remember Clippy from Microsoft Word?
Little
the
clipper
little
guy.
office assistant?
Oh, is that the paperclip?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
what
Clippy.
would you like to do today, dirtbag?
I don't.
Exactly.
I like the fact that you being a lifetime Mac guy, that you have a name for that. I don't think anyone had a name for that.
Is that what it's
If
called?
Gus were here, he would probably tell you that Excel was originally introduced on the Mac.
I remember that.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
I actually,
I
despite
just ran Flame War, Mac versus PC, go.
despite me being a PC user currently, I actually used to be a very heavy Mac user.
Really?
Yes.
And you converted back?
No. I'm still on PC right now. I converted to PC.
Converted to PC from Mac?
From Mac, that's right.
What drove you?
I guess the argument would be I choose freedom over stability. Like, I think every argument for Mac, like, on why you should use a Mac is based on how stable it is and how it makes your life easier. The way I use PCs, it's just stuff that makes sense that isn't there on a Mac. Like, how come on a Mac, when I want to resize a window, I can only drag the bottom right corner? Or, like, the fact that when... I remember older OSs, I think OS 7, if you had the numlock off and you hit the decimal key on the number pad, you could drop down the menu bar and access those through keystrokes. But that doesn't happen anymore.
Well, if you grabbed from another corner, you'd be holding it wrong.
But like
So
stuff
you
on the like, if I wanted to access brightness and contrast on Photoshop on a Mac, you have to hit the mouse and drag it from the menu bar. Where for me, brightness and contrast on a PC is Alt-I-A-C. Alt highlights the image in the menu option, drops it down. A is adjust, and C is contrast. Stuff like that, or Gaussian blur. Alt-T, B, right, down, G. Stuff like that.
So you've learned to use a computer in one way, and that's the way that
No,
the
I use
rest of the time.
It has a general rule that there's a way to get to every menu option via a letter or a keyboard stroke.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you don't have that on a Mac.
You don't have that on a Mac. You have to use the mouse. If you unplugged your mouse from your Mac, you would lose like 50, 60% of your interfacing.
And Monty gets his efficiency down, like tearing the covers off of keyboards and things like that. I've seen Monty like calculate the way he's going to run down the stairs to do it faster and figure out the fastest way to get down the stairs.
I got a money efficiency story from Jeff I heard last night.
Let's hear it. Griffin has a Monty efficiency story here.
One time, Jeff was going into the kitchen, and Monty was going to microwave something, and he said, "See, it says on the package I need to microwave this for a minute, but if I microwave it for 59 seconds, I only have to use two
No,
buttons."
it's not 59.
So,
It's 55 because you hit the same button twice, or 56. That's a roll of the number.
that's my story.
So you'd rather put up with cold food than...
What's 4 seconds?
It's 5 seconds.
No, it's 5 second difference or 4 second difference from a minute. If you want to microwave something for a minute, what do you type? 100?
Yeah.
Or you can type 55, 66, 65, or 56, and that's 2 digits with a finger roll or a double tap.
What? I just am happy that our microwave still has a door at this point. He hasn't ripped it off because he doesn't want to push the button to open the door. Oh, okay. Well, how would you rate this podcast in terms of efficiency today then?
I don't know. A little slow in the middle, kind of fast at the end. Could use more coffee.
How about the ending now? We are going to stop now. There.